Welcome back to another episode of Life After the Show. Now, as always, we're going to be talking about the Yankees and kind of what this offseason is looking like. I feel like right now, a bunch of us have to take it into our own hands to go out and get some of these players that the Yankees should sign. Maybe we should all band together, get some money, drop it off at their front doorstep, hand them the check, and just say, hey, if they won't do this, we will. I mean, we could definitely at least get a GoFundMe, you know? Who knows? I'm sure that there's a large enough community out there since Hal is broke and has no money and he's claiming poverty that the rest of us could take it into our own hands and go out and get these players ourselves. So maybe that's some food for thought with this video. But, if we don't do that, I think it'd be a good time to kind of just talk about a few of the players that are still out there that potentially makes sense for the Yankees to go after, given the fact of, where we're at in time and what that roster looks like. And, spring training's right around the corner. And, I think it's a good time to remember that there's a lot of things that are going to start happening here pretty soon, and you start seeing information get sprinkled out onto the internet. And thank God they dropped this one. This one was a revelation. This one made me stop everything I was doing and think, thank God I found out this. The Yankees put some information out there that they feel confident that Cody Bellinger's not going to follow Juan Soto and leave the Yankees and go to the Mets. And hey, thanks for that one. That was a Christmas atom bomb that they dropped on us right there. So I don't know what I would have done if I didn't know that. So appreciate the information coming out there from whatever source provided it, if there even is a source. So I think that the way that I want to start this off is there's some premier free agents still out there, right? And as I've said this before, those guys are really going to control this market, and I think that you're going to start to see that there's teams that want to make trades, and these trades probably won't be able to be done because some of those teams that want to make trades are going to be looking at the free agent market first, and the trades could boil over late into the offseason, maybe even spill into spring training to a certain extent. So some of these big players really control the landscape of a lot of these teams, you know, like dynamic of what they want their team to look like. And because they're putting all their eggs in one basket and they're really trying to make sure that they can go out and they can get these guys, it becomes frustrating for the players that fall underneath the premier guys. And I'm sure to a very large extent, it's frustrating for these teams because these teams want to get this stuff moving. But the agents that represent these players, they know what they're doing. This isn't their first time doing it. We've got Scott Boras just running it back every offseason. He's got every single free agent that's the best one, and he knows how to negotiate. And if you are a player for him, you know it's a good time to have him because he's going to squeeze all the ketchup out the bottle, and he's going to make sure that you get paid because we all know that lockout is looming. And to be able to put as much money in his players' pockets before a potential lockout, that's going to be priority for him. And so I think that as we go through this video, it's gonna be important to remember that a lot of these comments that I make, they're my own opinion and not necessarily a representation of what the Yankees are gonna do. But looking at that team right now, I feel like I break it up into a couple of different pillars, right? You've got the starting pitchers, you've got the relievers, you've got the position players, and then you go from there. And for me, I think that in my opinion, where the team's at right now, there's positions of need that they really need to figure out what it's going to look like. And if you figure it out, it could be huge for the next few years. You might not have to even think about that position if you get it figured out. And so at the top of the list for me, but again, I feel like the Yankees have already signaled what their thoughts are at this position, and they don't really view it the same way that maybe the rest of us do, and or maybe they're waiting for something to materialize in the next few free agencies, and they're going to try to go after one of those guys. But I believe that the shortstop position is the most important position to look at right now. And obviously, at the shortstop position, as far as free agents goes, you really only have Bo Bichette, and he's kind of making it seem that he might be willing to play second base. So you wonder if that's because there's not a lot of suitors at the shortstop position. So I don't know, but I feel like if we're looking at right now, and you really don't want to go through a lot of the same things that you went through last year, where it's just like, what's going to happen? To a certain degree, I'm sure that the Yankees don't want to keep answering these questions about what shortstop's going to look like. So what better time to go out and do that, but I think that they're prioritizing left field more in the sense of going after Cody Bellinger. I think that that is a top priority based off what I've read on the internet, and I believe that one. I do. I believe that they really want to bring Cody back. You know, I've said it again. He plays all the outfield positions. He could move over to your first base position to give Ben Rice a day, and so maybe in their eyes that position's better. But you have a young outfielder in Jason Dominguez, and then you have this top rising prospect in Spencer Jones, and so you wonder what it could look like if they gave those guys an extended runway at that position. But I don't know if we're ever going to get that. So I think that Cody Bellinger might hamper those two players to a very big degree. And so I think that, if they don't get Cody Bellinger, or if they do get Cody Bellinger, there's still a lot of players on this board that makes sense. There's a lot of really good guys that, we can make the video around if they get Cody Bellinger, if they don't get Cody, if they get Bo, if they don't get Bo. Like, we can go a lot of ways, but I think that the way that I want to do this is I just want to obviously point out that I'm fully aware that Kyle Tucker, Cody Bellinger, Bo Bichette, those are the guys at the top. Those are the cream of the crop. Every player, every team should want those guys. Is it feasible where they're at right now, between the way that their roster's constructed, between the way that they have money on the books? Is there too much money that those guys are going to be guaranteed to go after them and, really go into next season in the new CBA and the lockout, and things could change. I think that a lot of owners are being very cognizant of the fact that, hey, we've been over the tax threshold. We know that we'll get penalized, and I'm sure that the way that they're going to start doing this is they're going to make heftier penalties for the teams that go over the luxury tax. And I think that makes you wonder about what owners really just don't care, which ones won't care and will pay the fine, and we'll go from there. But as I was looking at this board earlier, right, and I'll share my screen, and I'll show what we've got. But I was looking at this board, and there's a lot of really good players left. To me, it feels like there's more pitchers out there, and I know that where the Yankees starting pitchers are at, they'll need one guy, and you can't have too many of them. You really can't. So it makes me honestly, I get excited looking at this board, because regardless of if they get one guy or if they don't get any guys, like, some of these teams are going to get these players. And there's a lot of reason to believe that some of these pitchers that are on this board are going to find their way in the AL East. The way that the AL East teams are moving right now, I don't think that any of them are done. I think that they're just continuing to try to add. I think that the AL East actually feels like this is the time to compete, and this is the time to really go after it and really, really plant your flag in the ground to say, like, we're the top dogs. And I think that the Orioles really might not be done either. And so makes you wonder, like, really, really makes you wonder which team's going to strike next. The clock is moving, and there's not a lot of time before spring training if you really think about it. So I think that we could see some of these AL East teams move with urgency. And so this is what I've got. I'll put the screen up. We'll go from there. And yeah, so look, I'm looking at the board, right? And this is what I think. I think that the Yankees are in a unique position. They could add a fifth starter. They have 5 starters, but I think that they could add one of these guys, slot him in later at the end of the rotation, and be really set up whenever that rotation's fully healthy. I mean, I'm looking at all these guys. I mean, the ones that make me the most excited, like, I'm going to shift it between the people who are expected to get the most money right here. So at the top, we see Cody Bellinger or Kyle Tucker over $40 million. That's a reason I think the Yankees just don't want to go after him. Is how can you pay him more than Aaron Judge? He he might get that. But look, I'm looking at one of the guys right here that I really like is Ranger Suarez. Okay. That guy is somebody that you could put in your rotation. Obviously, he can go towards the front. I mean, he has legitimate stuff. He is a legitimate arm. I mean, a lefty pitcher that is only he's barely even 30 years old. You'll get him by the time the season ends. He's going to be 31, and you rock from there. I mean, you don't have to go super long on the deal if that's something that he wants, then obviously you do, but you might not. I mean, you might be able to go 3-4 years with him, or 5, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they're thinking. I mean, I think that if you look at it like that, like, Ranger Suarez to me makes a lot of sense. He really does. He makes a lot of sense. And I believe that if the Yankees don't get him, one of those AL East teams is going to try to get him. one of them might get him. And I don't think that you want to allow these AL East teams to get some of these best players on the board when you might be able to if you aren't able to get some of the other guys that you want. Money will be freed up. Money that you would allocate towards one of these bigger players like Cody Bellinger, if you don't get him, you could put it towards Ranger Suarez. Again, I think that Cody Bellinger needs to be prioritized before him, but I think that there's still a way to get both of them. I really do. I really do. I mean, here's the other one that makes sense to me is Zach Gallen. He is literally the same age as Ranger Suarez. Okay. Imagine Zach Gallen as your fifth starter. That to me makes way too much sense. Just way too much sense to put him as your number five. I mean, you got Max Fried, you got Rodon, you got Garrett Cole, Cam Slitler, and Zach Gallen. Good luck, people. Good luck. And so again, you keep rolling, you keep looking. I think there's a case to be made that you could go after a guy like, again, this is an interesting one. I think there's a case to be made that you could go after JT Realmuto. You know, obviously his numbers have gone down a little bit, but the Yankees have talked about a right-handed catcher, and as far as catchers on the board, like he's the best one. He's declining a little bit. He's like 35. You could maybe offer him a 1 or 2 year deal, put him in a competition with Austin Wells, and you rock from there. I mean, we know that JT Realmuto used to be one of the best catchers in the game. He can call a game really well. And then you've got that righty in your lineup that you didn't have last year at catcher position. And that one to me, again, there's reasons to think that some of these players are affordable. I mean, it says JT Realmuto market value right around $13 million. I don't know if the Yankees would do that, but as the season goes on in the offseason, if you get closer to spring and some of these teams aren't offering them that value that the players want, then you can do it. I mean, you might be able to get the price down a little bit. That's really what it comes down to. So I'm just continuing to go a little bit further. Okay, here's a name that I liked. I don't know why I was off on this name at first, but as I started to think about it, and I was like, you know what? This one makes sense. I don't think anyone would be really like turned off to it if we're looking at it from a standpoint of, okay, well, if they don't get Cody Bellinger, right, and then you run this competition in left field between Jason Dominguez, Spencer Jones. I think right now Jason Dominguez has the leg up over Spencer Jones, but I think that if you were to add another player to the equation, one outfielder that I would like to see if you don't get Cody Bellinger back would be Harrison Bader. How about that? How about that? Dude had a good season last year. Dude can play the outfield. Like, he can really play the outfield. And so I think bringing Bader back would make sense. I mean, it says his value is around $10 million. That one to me is an interesting one, okay? Because then if you put him in left field, I think he hit what 277 last year between two teams. I mean, I know that people love seeing Bader in pinstripes, and they thought that he brought a lot of energy. I saw a lot of people say that they think that Bader was what they wanted me to be, and that one hurt. That one hurt to read, but hey, shout out to Bader. I bet he could be somebody that fans get excited about putting him back out there. He could be a leadoff guy. He could be somebody that you slot at the end of the lineup to turn that lineup back over. I mean, again, I'm not advocating for him to be taking the positions of Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones, but I think if you take them into spring training and you let them duke it out and you see where it's at, I mean, I think that right now at the beginning of the season for the Yankees, you really need to just add consistent players. That's what it is. You want to add players that you know what they're going to be. And I think that they know what Harrison Bader is going to be. So continuing to look, I mean, here's the thing. I've said his name multiple times. I'll say it again. 7.8 is the value. Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander at the fifth starter is a great option. Obviously, he's closing in 43 years old. Still kicking though. Still really kicking. So makes a lot of sense. I think that one to me is someone that you could I can just see it. I don't know why. I can just see it. To me, it feels like he's like a match made in heaven for the Yankees. I bet they've wanted him many times in the past. This one might actually make sense to get him. Wouldn't be surprised if somehow saw him back with the Tigers. I think that the fairy tale ending of him going back to Detroit could make sense. And who knows? We'll see from there. I mean, as I'm looking through these players, there's not a ton of guys that make a lot of sense for where the Yankees are at, but I think this is another one that's interesting because he used to be a guy that was a top free agent or a top prospect, and he's a switch hitter, and he can do some really good stuff if he's hot, and I think a change in scenery would be good. He got one last year. I think it was okay. But again, where his value is at right now, I would much rather have this guy as my third baseman than the current guy, and that is Yoan Moncada. Okay? Yoan Moncada is a very talented player. Very talented player. I believe that he's somebody that needs to be kind of held accountable to a certain extent in terms of like pushing him. I think that he's one of the best players whenever he's going. And what I mean by that is when he gets hot, like he can be one of the best players on your team. He really can. But it's a matter of keeping him motivated and keeping him in the fight. And so that's a risky one a little bit, just a little bit. But I think that Yohan Moncada is a guy that could make sense for the Yankees to a certain degree. I really do. I think that he could play that position pretty well if he wants to. And so I know that he'll be out there and he might make sense. But as we're going through, I mean, y'all are seeing this. There's just like nada. It kind of falls off. I mean, I see the Austin Hayes one. I see that one. That one makes sense. I mean, that one with the Bader stuff. I mean, Bader and Harrison, or Bader and Austin Hayes. Those two are pretty similar in players, and one of them's already been there. One of them, like Harrison Bader, to me again, he loves it. He loves it. I bet he would love to be back in New York. So that one would be cool. I'm seeing Miguel Andujar right there. Can you imagine Miggy back in the Bronx? There's no way. There's no way he wants that. Um, I mean, I was looking at his numbers earlier. I don't love it. But the Michael Conforto, he really struggled last year. He did. He hit under 200. I don't think that's really a representation of, what he really is as a player, but I don't think that he would make sense for the Yankees. But the value of $6 million could be something that they look at. I mean, I don't know how accurate all of these things are. Um, Another one that you could see in the catcher position, and I've been around him, and who knows? I mean, he really hit well whenever he had the season with the Rangers that he did, and switch hitter, big catcher, Jonah Heim. Jonah Heim could be one of those guys that, obviously I said switch hitter. He's a really good catcher in terms of being able to call a game, and who knows? I think that again, I think that just speaking out loud, I think that the Yankees are pretty content with where they're at with the catching spot right now. It seems like they have a lot of confidence in that backup catcher. um, Made it seem like he might be able to steal the job. Okay, so let's just go a little bit further. I got a few more names that I've passed over that I forgot to mention. Another one that could be a good one at the shortstop spot would be Willie Castro. Okay, Willie Castro could do it. Willie Castro could be somebody that the Yankees slot there early in the season, and you give him a little bit of an extended runway, and you let him take it if it's his. Like I'm just like thinking out loud here, and I'm trying to be the guy that is proactive and gives the players or gives the team the players that make a lot of sense. But I'm thinking that there's a few of these guys out there that are kind of cost friendly that could help the Yankees lineup in terms of putting a solid quality player out there that has had a starting role many times on the team before. And therefore, he wouldn't be somebody that, you're kind of getting as like a role player or whatnot. Like we're talking about guys that if you don't go out and get one of those top three guys that I mentioned in Bo Bichette, Kyle Tucker, Cody Bellinger, then some of these players actually make sense. I mean, there's there's a lot of guys on this list. There's a lot. And with how much time we got left till spring training, you're gonna start seeing these names are falling off the board real fast. Real fast. At the top of the list, favorite guy, not gonna happen. Gotta mention him. Alex Bregman. I would love to see it. I would love to see it. You would have to make a move at third. You'd have to trade Ryan McMahon. You'd probably have to eat some of that contract. Then you'd have to give Alex Bregman a big deal. And then you would have to deal with the fact that every single question that surrounds Alex Bregman signing would be, how do you feel about the 2017 Astros cheating scandal now being on the New York Yankees? And to me, like, gotta let bygones be bygones, but there's no way that one's gonna happen. But again, if I were GM, I would be prioritizing a lot of these things. I would be finding ways to move stuff to see if I can get these guys because, again, I think Alex Bregman is going to find his way back in a Red Sox uniform. Saw that the Diamondbacks might be in play for him. Saw that there's potential with the Cubs. I mean, there's reason to believe that Alex Bregman is looking for a home, and sometimes some of these teams just kind of come out of nowhere and get some of these guys. And I think the Yankees coming out of nowhere and getting Alex Bregman would be extremely fascinating. So again, as I said all these names, look, this doesn't mean that the Yankees have to go get these guys, but there's a lot of players on this list that make a lot of sense to me, and I don't know if they're gonna do it. I don't know what they're thinking. I think that as every day continues to pass and we don't have the answers that we are looking for, we're left to wonder, like, what really is the next chess move that they're going to make? I think Cody Bellinger will be the guy that we see something happen with if anything happens first. I wouldn't hate to see any of these guys be players that they sign. I mean, there's spots that still need to be filled. I mean, you could put like a Lorenzen on your lineup or in your rotation, or you could put him in your bullpen. I mean, you have to get crafty to a certain degree with the way that this team is going to be constructed, right? Because the AL East is going to be extremely competitive next year. We're looking at maybe 3, 4 teams that could win the division. We're looking at one that went to the World Series. We're looking at two that went against each other, and then one that knocked them all out, and then one that stayed around in the Blue Jays. So I know that was kind of confusing what I said right there, but basically all I'm getting at is that the AL East is going to be extremely competitive, and that I do believe that if the Yankees do not start to act now, that the rest of the teams in the AL East might start gobbling up some of these players that are on the free agent board that can really move your team in a positive direction. So I would like to see it. I would like to see the Yankees be the Yankees and go out and get these guys. I mean, God, I got to figure it out. I just want to I need to text somebody. I really do. I need to text somebody. I have people sometimes from the Yankees, not really, no players really, because I'm not really close with any of the guys still on the roster, but employees, people that actually work there that have interacted with me. And they've all talked about my podcast. And I think that they all laugh and giggle at the fact that it's me doing it because I know that the Yankees are probably just like you, like they might be watching this closely, because I do believe that they think that I'm a liability to say something, and who knows? But I do know that some people in that org still interact with me, and I would love to reach out to a few of them to try to see if there's any way that they'll tell me anything that's going on. Probably won't. Probably would be really scared to, but I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna heat check it, see if I can pull up from full court and get some news for y'all. So expect expect the answer to be no, but just know that I am trying. So that's the episode. Life after the show. We're talking free agents. We're talking about ones that could be beneficial for the Yankees to get. These are all my opinions. My opinions don't mean that the Yankees have to do it. But if I were GM, there's plenty of players on that board that make a lot of sense for the Yankees to go after. And I'm hoping that we at least see one or two. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. Fans can get excited for some of the players that I just mentioned. So, as always, if you agree, disagree, put it in the comments. Let me know. Let me know. I want to see if we think the same way. I want to see if there's reason to believe that all of us might see this the way that it should be seen versus the way that the Yankees might be seeing it. So put your stuff in the comments. I'm replying always and expect another episode to come out here pretty soon. Thanks for watching.